Welcome to A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to My Life. This is the place to be for stories to inspire and uplift when life doesn't go according to our plans. I'm Laura Muirhead, your host and the reigning queen of A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to My Life. I can't wait to share the plot twist stories of my guests that will inspire and uplift you when life didn't follow the plan, right here on A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to My Life podcast. Hello, and welcome to this episode of A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to My Life. I am your host, Laura Muirhead, and I am thrilled to have my guest today, Tammy Carey. I have known Tammy for a few years, and not only is she an incredible human being, but she also does amazing work in the world. So Tammy, come and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
So thanks for having me today, Laura. This is lots of fun. I'm really excited. I was thrilled to think about it this morning when I woke up and be able to talk to your audiences and beyond. And so I am the CEO of the Oceana Community Foundation, and we serve Oceana County on the western side of Michigan along Lake Michigan. So it's a beautiful place, as you know, Laura. And I've been in my role for 22 years.
Wow, 22 years. I guess I didn't realize you'd been there that long. So that's incredible. Now tell me, I mean, even though you've been there for, I mean, that I don't know why I'm just like caught off guard by that. So anyway, not only have you been doing that for a number of years, you did a lot of other work leading up to that was amazing. So tell us a little bit about your history.
Yeah, so I went to college in Ohio at Miami University of Ohio, and I received a degree in business. And along the way, as we all have our journeys, I had the opportunity to work at a television station in Detroit, which is near my hometown. And I worked in their marketing department and as an intern for one summer for no money. And I just scrambled there, learning lots of things. And I had an opportunity because I only had one semester left of college. And I had an opportunity to apply to a position. The person that I worked for in Detroit made a transition to New York City. And so she thought highly of me and introduced me to another department there at the ABC network in New York City, and she kind of made it possible for me to apply and interview for a position out there. So I did. I flew out there right after I graduated from college, and was offered a position. It was all fast and furious. 2 weeks later, I had moved to New York City and was working right midtown in their marketing department. And this is for a division of ABC for all their owned television stations. So we were doing all the marketing research for the salespeople there that were out working with the ad agencies and clients. And it was a very different kind of job. It was in the entertainment industry, but kind of very back office, but close enough that I had a ton of fun. And it was a great first job right out of college. And I really learned the ropes of sales and marketing and how to communicate with people. And so after about a couple of years there, I decided to transition to dive a little deeper into marketing research because I really love to understand people's motivations. And so I took a job for a marketing research company it was called the Bases Group. and it was in New Jersey. So I stopped commuting into New York City, and then I was driving and going to my job there. And that was for a company that does sales forecasting for new ideas for products, or actually we're testing products. So it was kind of like the Microsoft of the late 80s. I mean, it was a very young company and also a really fun, interesting place to work. And I continued to hone my skills in marketing and marketing research and consumer behavior. So that might be a little bit of a interesting part of my journey that you weren't aware of, Laura.
Yeah, it is. I didn't know that you had lived in, I knew that you had a connection with New Jersey, but I didn't know that you had lived and worked in New York and had ABC. I mean, like a star in your own right, like working for ABC. Um, and but uh, the and I think that all that experience that you had really ties into what you do now and helps you with that as well. But at some point, you you ended up obviously in this world of you know, foundations and charity work and this type of giving in the world. How did you end up? How did you end up in this world?
Yeah, so it was quite a transition. After we lived there about 8 years, and we had had our first son, and we decided that we, as many people do, young people, they yearn when they start to have children to be closer to their families. And our families were back in Michigan, and we owned a small cottage at Silver Lake Sand Dunes. And so we basically left, we were like yuppie dropouts. We left our jobs, we sold everything and packed up a U-Haul moving van and drove back to Michigan and moved into our little tiny cottage and worked on transitioning our lives. So I started off for a few years working for a small company doing kind of in-house ad agency work for them and learning graphic design and applying some of my marketing skills. I enjoyed that, but I would say I'm not super talented creatively to design on you know, graphic design pieces. I can have the vision in my head, but I'm not very artistic. So it was an okay learning ground. Again, you know, honing some more skills. But I only stayed there a few years, but it was fun. It was great time. And then I transitioned to having my own marketing consulting company for a period of time. And along the way, I had three more sons. So I have four sons, and so I had a big family. And I was approached to join the Community Foundation board because of my years of experience in marketing and how they really wanted to. It was a small community foundation at that time, really wanted to, some assistance on getting the word out about those charitable organizations serving our county here. And so that's what I did. I joined the board for a year, and then little did I know that they kind of had a master plan, that the current director had plans to retire. And so after about a year, she announced her retirement, and then I was approached to become the coordinator for the community foundation. And it worked out really great because I could do that from my house. I could still do the job I loved of being a mom to four sons who were quite young and begin to love my county in a whole different way. And also to help those that also loved this area and wanted to help people in innumerable ways, which has grown so much over time. So that's how I transitioned into my work for the Community Foundation. It started off fairly small as a position in number of hours, and you know, of course, now has grown as along with the foundation. Um, And a lot has happened along the way, which I'm happy to tell you more about, Laura.
Yeah. Talk
Mm.
about a funny thing happened on the way to your life. Here you are in New York and New Jersey, and then,
Yeah.
start having your family. And I think you're right. A lot of people, when they start to have their children, there's that, let's go back home. Let's be closer to our extended family and our roots. But also with what an opportunity for you to get in on, I guess maybe at that time was the ground floor of the Oceana County Foundation. And I've only known it for the last few years, and it's definitely much bigger entity and reaches. I can only imagine. Maybe you could share with us a little bit about who they reach and the amount of people that they reach. Um, in a minute, what I wanted to bring back to this is also a couple weeks ago. It might have been a month already now. You had your annual dinner that I was fortunate enough to attend, and that actually was a big inspiration for me to ask you to be a guest on my podcast so that we could talk about some of the things that the foundation does and who they reach. But maybe first you could talk about just the growth that the foundation has had over the years, and how many lives that it potentially touches now.
Yeah. When I started with the foundation as the coordinator on a very part time position, we had often, as foundations do, is they start by saying, what is their asset size and how many funds do you have in the foundation? Because a foundation, a community foundation, is like a collection of different named funds, and typically some an unrestricted fund like a community investment fund and other specialized funds that we call them field of interest funds that support different causes like the environment or the arts or youth. So when I started, we had a couple of those types of funds, but we had 22 total funds and we had $2 million in assets. And now we have $18 million in assets and almost 200 funds. So that gives you in the range of when I've been here. And when I started with the foundation in 2002, we had been in existence since 1989 and have been more focused on growing scholarship funds and growing a youth fund and our unrestricted funds. So those, and then there were a couple other types of funds that had been started by individuals or for a nonprofit to help them sustain themselves. So there were a few other different types of funds, but we were primarily established as an entity that helped youth with scholarships, to go on to their next step in education towards their desired career. So, so much has happened since then. And, now we're an organization employing 3 full-time people and another 3 contracted people part-time. And I'm poised to hire another person next year. So, why do we need these folks? Is because we are running a lot of different programs. We have a very vibrant community grant program that is done twice a year. We run a youth committee that is meeting monthly and doing all sorts of leadership and community outreach and helping of their peers. They advise over their own youth fund. So we're teaching those young people, high school students from all of our area high schools, about philanthropy and how to care and love their community and learning an awful lot along the way. We have recently launched a couple programs, Laura, that you're associated with. One is the Complete Your Degree program, and that is because we have done quite a bit of work lately in the field of economic development and workforce development. And we know that there is a lot of skilled positions or more educated positions that were going unfilled in our community. And there's definitely, everyone knows the skilled trades pipeline is wide. There's a lot of need, but there's not a lot of people in it, young people in it. So our board, hearkening back to what I said about us being sort of founded and growing in our scholarship programs, our board took a really hard look at what is the overall impact of our scholarship programs and what is really needed in our community, because scholarships typically start as initiated by donors that oftentimes are thinking about their loved one that had passed and kind of wanting to honor their legacy. And that's all wonderful. But we also need to consider from a broader perspective what is needed, excuse me, in the county to best serve our companies, to best serve pathways that maybe students and adults are interested in pursuing. So that's why we started this Complete Your Degree program. And we've only been in that space 1 year. They've been in college at one of the community colleges, pursuing higher need careers like nursing, electrical, business, those types of IT, those types of sectors that really have really high need in our area. And we want to support them 100%. Once they join our cohort, we will fill every tuition gap that they have in order to finish their degree or certification. And we'll also help them along the way with some success coaching. So someone's walking alongside them. And then thirdly, if they have any life barriers that could get in their way of success, like their car breaks down. So we're going to pay that car repair bill. And we've paid quite a few already. So because we know if they can't get to their classes, then, they're not going to stay on track. So we had our first graduate, Alan, who we were so excited that he had finished his electrical certificate. And then we had a new person that had joined, Lauren, our cohort, and she had a really fun, interesting story of involving a mentor. And so I asked them, would you be willing to share your stories at our event coming up? And they were both very excited to do so. And along the way, Dan and Laura had offered to provide a present of unknown what it would end up being, but to our graduates, our early graduates of the Complete Your Degree program. So Alan, being the first one, was just an amazing fit for Laura to come and present that award at our event, because they know all about skilled trades and the need for those skilled technicians out there. And so it was a very emotional, powerful moment at our dinner. And I've continued to hear lots and lots of feedback of how inspired people were in the audience to hear directly from people that were benefiting from a program that we had.
That this is, and in fact, I'm tearing up again just thinking about it and about the impact that you're having on these people, because I've known people over the years who were in the situation where, maybe they raised their children and they want to go back to college, or they, want to learn a skill, learn a trade that they've been even maybe a stay-at-home mom. I know in Alan's case, he just wanted to change his career path and become an electrician. And we do know, having our business, the value of the trades, and having welders and having machinists, electricians, these people, plumbers, these people are hard to find, and they're hard, and especially in our area in Oceana County, how many times do we see somebody asking, who can I call for to work on my electricity? Who can I call? I've got a plumbing problem. Who can I call for my heating. I mean, there's great heating contractors in the area, but a lot of them are really busy. Some of them don't take on new customers because they are so busy. And these are locksmiths. We had a need for a locksmith about a year, well, earlier this year, and oh my goodness, it was a challenge. So, but this dinner, I just wanted to talk about the event that you had for a minute, because this was again the inspiration. We so many times, and I want to talk about this a bit with you. I feel like so many times, number one, we see the need or hear the need. The need is promoted to give worldwide, out in the world, because this is happening or this crisis. And of course, those are important things to support if you're feeling called for that. But the need in our own area, in not just in Oceana County, I'm just familiar with that, and we're just familiar with that, but maybe there's a need in your own area that you could fill. But we don't normally, at least I don't normally, get to see the ripple effect of a donation that we make. And I think that is why it was so emotional and so touching that evening, and probably for a lot of people that night, to actually hear stories of people who, first of all, thank you for the foundation for offering a program like this and being supportive on multiple levels, not just to offer the scholarship or the money to go to school, but like you said, to have mentors to walk with them. That can be huge as well. And to offer, if they have, I think you also help once in a while with childcare needs, or a car breaking down, like you said, a car breaking down. And these are challenges that people, real life challenges that people face. And for you to fill those gaps is incredible. But to me, this is like the ripple effect of that we don't get to see. And so when you are donating and giving, you're really like, these are real people that whose lives you are potentially changing, or at least helping to change. And again, that to me, that goes along right with my a funny thing happened on the way to my life. When you're going along, maybe working in a manufacturing job, and then you decide you really have a passion for something else, and you want to learn to be something in the trades. And I love this program. I mean, you have multiple programs that we are touched by, but this one has really, and we didn't know. This is the thing too. We chose this, actually, my husband chose to support this program last year in your holiday event, your holiday open house, when you had sort of wishes on the Christmas tree, and he pulled this one off and wanted to you support this particular program. And even at that time, we had no idea. We're like, yeah, sure, let's support that. And then you fast forward to months and months later, and it just is, it's amazing. And maybe you could speak, maybe you probably see more than we do the ripple effect of the donations that you receive.
We do and we don't. So uh, when it comes to the scholarship program, we see a little bit more because we often have direct contact with the students to assist them in, getting their scholarship to financial aid, and reading their thank you notes, um, and talking to them about their if they have questions, or guiding them through our application process and acceptance process of the awards. And so we do have a lot of contact there. But sometimes, our role as a community foundation is to connect resources. One of our roles is to connect resources with needs. So we have nonprofits that are our partners, or community groups that are our partners, that are actually out there doing the work. they are servicing their clients or their community. So we're helping them. We don't always necessarily see their work. Read about it in their grant application or when we do site visits and get to know their organization better. And we've been making a really concerted effort to build those connections with our nonprofit and community partners because it really takes all of us with shared goals to, uh, you know, raise the tides of our community. So it was very emotional for me too, Laura, to have the group of speakers that we had at our event. That is the first time I've ever done that. And I was very excited for it, but I was also a little scared because you can't script it. I asked them to share some of their comments ahead of time, just so, and we gave them some ideas of kind of this is a, a good path to focus on with your comments, but we didn't want to script it. We wanted it to come from their heart. We wanted it to show their passion for what they're trying to do and the challenges that they might uh, be encountering and how we are assisting them and are certainly our donors that provide the resources to connect with their needs. So we had we had Alan and Lauren speaking, and then we had a couple others. One was more of a community organizer in her little tiny town that took an old school building and has turned it into a community center along with lots of people in that community. And we had approached them of, hey, do you have a corner in one of your rooms that you would consider letting us set up a literacy corner? Because that's a challenge, a big challenge in our rural area. And that's something we should talk a little bit about, Laura, the differences between urban and rural. But we approached them, hey, we got this great idea to set up this nice, calm, welcoming space for our littlest learners, the little kids, the babies, the toddlers, the preschoolers, to come and have organized playtime and also all the wonderful things they like to play with, books to read and little nooks and crannies for them to a little teepee to sit inside to calmly look at their book and experience the discovery of words and attractive pictures and all of that. And they about fell over backwards. They said, "Really? You're approaching us? Well, yeah, we want that." And so it's been a really fun journey to bring the donors together. Another couple like you, Laura and Dan, that were like, "Yeah, we want to help with that," and it was very powerful for them too to see this emerge out of just an idea. And we had a great, wonderful nonprofit partner that helped to pull all that together for us. So sometimes it's little tiny projects like that that we help to set up and then kind of let it go, and it's up to the community to carry it forward, and they have with much excitement, and and sometimes it's really big, huge projects that eat up 50% of my time for a year, and I'm not kidding, to build a giant recreational park for the whole county, a $5.5 million project that I would say we're about 60% through of the construction, and most of the money has been raised. So it's been really exciting to see something like that happen for our rural area to build those kind of assets that are seen in more urban areas. But you know what? We deserve them too.
Absolutely. And I think that again that evening I'm going to keep referring back to that because I really had probably a lot of education that night because of the programs that were presented and the people that spoke about the programs. That was one of them. And the literacy, I've known for a few years that literacy overall in the county, especially for the kids starting out, it's a challenge. And I think for probably a lot of people, it's something that we take for granted. At least I did. I was fortunate enough. I had a relative who was actually a school librarian, and so as I was growing up, we were gifted books all the time. All the time we had books, and from a young age, and then of course when my kids were growing up, we had books for them and read to them. And I think it's something that a lot of people take for granted. And it's really important to get books in the hands of children and get them to get a start to learn to read and potentially love to read. But also another one of the programs and this is where I think if you look around in your area, wherever you live, that maybe you can see a need. And a lot of times these funds, from what I can see, and you can speak more to this too, come from somebody's passion where they see a need and they start to fill it. One of the speakers that night spoke about the migrant worker program to help bring clothes and even diapers and soccer balls and whatever to migrant workers. And another one that really touched me was and this was someone who you honored, who you recognized, somebody who created a fund, was a woman who has now passed away. Her husband has carried on her mission, but she would collect gloves and clothes for children. She was a teacher, I believe, and would collect these things. And that program, her husband has just continued that, and that program has expanded in such an incredible way throughout the county. It's a well-known program that people donate to and love to donate to, and they find a need and fulfill it for people who maybe, like you said, don't have. I mean, we take these things for granted that we're going to have gloves and boots and a warm coat, and not everybody does.
Right. Oceana County is one of the poorest county according to, individual income and family income in the whole state of Michigan. So it's one of the handful of counties kind of at the bottom for that metric. And it's also a county that has miles of shoreline along Lake Michigan, so it attracts a lot of tourists and second home residents. So we have this dichotomy in our county of quite wealthy people that come to live here and love the area just as much as everyone else that lives here too. So we've been working really hard to try to build understanding of the community needs. And along the way, there's been a lot of persons like Mark Mullen, who you mentioned, who decided that my wife, Diane, was, as she actually was the principal of an elementary school in Hart, quietly would provide the needs for the students that she would see coming to school with improper attire for the winter, because as you know, it gets pretty cold here and we get a lot of snow. And so she started, along with friends that still work for the closets, acquiring snow pants and boots and hats and gloves and maybe even tennis shoes for outside of those seasons for kids that had improper gym shoes. And so when she passed away, her husband and all those friends said, "We do not want this program to stop. It is so important." At that time, it was just in one school system. And so they have annual fundraiser and sat. I remember sitting with Mark Mullen at our first meeting, and we met in the Early Childhood Center. And I'll just never forget that vision of us sitting at a little tiny kids' table with those little tiny chairs. I was about like a foot off the ground. And the two of us sat at that little table, and he told me all about what his wife had done. And I was just amazed. I never knew anything about it. And Laura, I'm so excited for you to say that people know about Mrs. Mullen's Closet. They know that name now, and they know that that program has expanded to every school building in the whole county. And actually, the Mullen family have some property in another county, and friends and neighbors there also started a closet in Benzie County, which is north of us. And so that closet is impacting, closets in both counties are impacting hundreds, thousands of kids since it started. And there's just really no child that needs uh, to be left behind when it comes to winter wear. The needs are identified by the teachers in the schools, and then they work with the closet organizers to make sure that they are provided all brand new. There's no used items at all. They are purchased all brand new coats, boots, snow pants. And then for those little accidents that might happen in the elementary school, there's socks, there's underpants, there's sweatpants, because those, want to make sure that kids have dignity and security, that they're going to be warm and safe in the winters here. So,
These are just amazing programs to me, and I think, if anyone's listening and if you see a need in your area, if you just start something, it doesn't have to be a big thing. It's just if it's something that you see a need. But also, I think a lot of times we think that, oh, you have to give a lot to make a difference, and you don't. You can just donate a smaller amount to make a difference, because as a community, this is where you build. But the other thing I wanted to mention about this, because I think this was also really impressed on me at your event, there were, I believe, three people that you recognized that night who have started various funds, and like Mrs. Mullen's Closet, um, that have grown, or these people who have, again, the ripple effect of these people starting their funds and continuing over the years. To me, what impressed me was there's a level of giving from the right place. These people that you recognize that evening are the most humble, unassuming people, and they aren't there for the accolades. They're there for the giving and for the helping other people. And I think that there's that's huge, to be giving from, and when I say the right place, I mean the right energy, of just wanting to have that energy, not a I have to, I should, I'm feeling guilty because I need to. It's literally a want or a passion of giving, to whatever it is that speaks to your heart. For us, at least I know for Dan and I, when you have a big list of things that we can help with, and we go through that, and what speaks to us is what we want to. And again, just like last year, when Dan chose that wish off the tree, it spoke to him, because that is something we know about the trades, and the need for people, and the challenges of people trying to learn that and get into it. But there's a huge need. So maybe if you could speak for a minute about giving from the right place or the right energy as well.
yeah, I'd like to go back to that reference you made to helping out our migrant farm workers.
Sure.
So, a couple years ago, I saw that a Department of Health and Human Services were asking for donations to support our migrant farm workers. Oceana County is a beautiful place with tourism, but it is also a place where food is grown. And our migrant farm workers and all of our farm workers and all of our growers and we have 7 food processors here in Oceana County. That's a lot. It shows how important and rich agriculture is to our economy. And none of that would happen if you don't support the farm workers. They are such critical people to make sure everyone has food on their table. And when they were asking for those donations, I approached them and I said, "Can we put together an Amazon wish list? Let's make it easy for the giver, and then we will get the word out. We'll put it in our e-news. We'll put an article in our local papers. We'll share it on our social media channels, and we'll put the link out there. It's up on our website and all of that. It happens usually in the springtime. And and it's not just for the farm workers, it's also for their families. So that's why we're asking, could you help us buy some diapers or some wipes or also personal care products, some shampoo, some deodorant, some toothpaste, all of those things. Because sometimes farm workers come and their families, they're moving from place to place and they come with very little. We've done drives even for bed sheets and pillows and blankets and sweatshirts because it gets cool in the fall when they're still working, picking apples and bringing in the produce that is at the end of the season. And at the beginning of the season, we have asparagus. We're the largest producer of asparagus in the whole United States. And it can be cool in the spring. Sometimes it can even snow. So, anyways, we really wanted to support their effort. And we also knew it would be an easy way, Laura, for people um, to give. And sometimes we all utilize those online resources. And so let's throw a couple items and send it directly. We receive all of the boxes. We told the Department of Health and Human Services and that migrant task force, we'll have everything come here, and then we'll let periodically when we got a whole bunch, and please come and get it, and they take it away. And then they start visiting the camps all summer, the migrant camps, and they bring all of this out to the kids. And one of the things that we also ask for is toys, coloring books, crayons, things for the children, to bring pleasure into their lives. And one of the interesting outcomes that happened for that dinner is I had an email the very next day from a donor that helps with a refugee center in Lansing, which is our state capital in Michigan. And he said, I have opportunity because of my prior work before I retired to get um, soccer balls. And so could I give those folks that are going out into the camps, could I give them a dozen or more brand new, uh, super nice soccer balls? And so I connected him with that a DHHS person, and boy, did they make that happen quickly. He brought them up. They had an event planned for Halloween, and they went ahead and passed them out. And boy, it was from the children to the adults, the young adults. You could just see smiles a mile wide. Uh, you know, Soccer is a very cherished sport in our Latinx communities, and they had a lot of fun with that. And so sometimes you have no idea how the connections are going to happen, but we love being a resource for that. I get calls all day long. It seems like, hey, I want to donate this, or who should I reach out to for that? Or my neighbor needs some help because their well has gone bad. How can we help this person? We actually helped. We had a couple donors that assisted with another nonprofit. Actually, two nonprofits came together to assist this resident in one of our towns in Oceana County to replace a well because she's a widow and taking care of a disabled son, and she had no water. So you just never know when the needs are going to present themselves, and I was really glad that we could help with that particular need, and we had a couple donors that were jumped right on board, and those nonprofits also had a group of donors that all came together. So it really took the combined effort of all of us to meet that need. So that was heartwarming and not something we really talked much about, but it things like that happen all the time. And I'm not sure if I answered your question because I went off down a rabbit hole, but
No, I'm really
ask
happy
me
you spoke.
again if I haven't.
I'm so happy you spoke about that because I was really touched by well, I don't know that there was anything I wasn't touched by that in that event, but the migrant worker program as well. And I think that I also think there's a level of creativity that comes into play with some of these programs that you are supporting because just what's the need and how can we be creative and fill it. So but what I was talking about was like the people that you had honored that night,
Yes.
as far as on the donor level and giving from the right place, the right energy, as far as, wanting to give, not coming from a place of should or have to.
Yeah, I'd love to comment more on that. So, philanthropy is typically defined by time, talent, treasure. And one of our awardees that night was absolutely recognized for his time. He had given hundreds of hours to construct a accessible viewing area of a Lake Michigan bluff and then new steps going down to the beach. And so many, it's like a little hidden gem in our county, a little county park um, that called Cedar Point. And there used to be a set of kind of rickety steps going down to the beach. But unless you went down to the beach, you really couldn't experience and appreciate the sunset or just the feeling of being along Lake Michigan. And so he worked with actually the other recipient of our awards that night. We posthumously recognize a gentleman by the name of Dale Lathers, who was the trustee for his brother's trust. And that trust helped provide the majority of the materials to construct this new accessible to wheelchairs platform, a viewing platform to experience and take in the Lake Michigan view and the feel and all of that um, from up high on top of the bluff. And then if you're able, you can go down on a new set of steps that were set up a little more friendly for folks that maybe need more time to go up or down, some rest areas and tiered types of steps. So Pete Lumberg is the gentleman we recognized with what we called our Greater Good Award for giving he constructed everything you see out there essentially himself. And he is a retired director of a state park, a nearby state park. And so he has spent his whole career in the Department of Natural Resources, loves the outdoors, loves bringing the outdoors into every person's sphere of experience. And so that was a passion of his, to how he could help the community. And Pete's one of those kind of guys that is doing so much work for the community all the time, that um, you can hardly keep up with trying to recognize them. But this particular project has taken a long, long time to make happen, and I believe it's pretty much done. The community foundation helped with providing funds to put accessible picnic tables there and doing some other supports for that project. And I believe they're going to build a covered pavilion there too, so people can go and picnic. We also had a placemaking grant program 2 summers ago, where we wanted to, and this was where we were utilizing the rest of our monies raised to help support COVID response. So we had kind of gotten past the need for helping people directly, and now we wanted to assist communities in some of the outcomes of the pandemic, which was people wanted to be outdoors more. And so we had this placemaking grant round where we helped to build up some of our county parks and other community meeting spaces, and that happens to be one of the parks that we provided some funds for. So Pete was going back to Pete is an awesome opportunity to recognize him, and then to celebrate the many, many years that Dale um, honored the charitable goals of his brother's trust. And now his wife, his widow, and his son are continuing that legacy of work, that charitable work. And they um, share the commitment and the passion and the energy, as you will, Laura, to continue the work of Dale, and I feel so fortunate for all the years that I got to work with him. Very quiet person. Didn't want recognition. His brother didn't want recognition, and and there's so much work that is so much philanthropy that has happened over the years. I probably only know 25% of it, of all the great things that happen um, through their amazing giving.
Yeah, and I know Pete a little bit, and so I had the opportunity to just briefly congratulate him, for being honored that night. And his comment to me was, "I just went to the beach every day." And
Yeah,
so he just really thoroughly enjoyed, building this this amazing place at the beach for people to enjoy the ocean, yeah, not ocean, the Lake Michigan, and that,
ocean without salt.
yeah, unsalted. We're unsalted. And
Yeah,
people do, I mean, people come from, visit us and come from New Jersey where we have, our home, besides our home there in Michigan, and they're like, how is this a lake? It's, it does look like an ocean. It's so vast. But
yeah.
I think that we obviously could go on and on and on and talk about all the amazing things that the foundation does, but I think this is a good place to wrap up. Just and I just want to say to the listeners, number one, if you see in your area a need that, one person can make a difference, or reach out. Maybe there is a foundation in your area. If you are in our Oceana County area, reach out to the foundation if you have an idea, or if you have a desire to give. But I will put links everywhere of how to reach out, and find more information, how to, get in touch with Tammy. But I would love for you to, any last words from you. I really am so grateful for you joining me today and again, it just touched me so much that I felt like we had to have a conversation, and put it out there.
Laura, I really have enjoyed this. It's been a ton of fun for me. It's the first podcast I've ever done. And I hope to do more. I just told my staff the other day, I want to do podcasts, and I have two staff in their 20s, and they both like about screamed and jumped out of their seats, like, yay! So, um, anyways, this is the season of giving, right? Thanksgiving, season of thankfulness, gratefulness, and moving into the holiday season. It's an opportunity to reflect on what your community might need as well as all your loved ones. And there's lots and lots of opportunity from food to toys for the kids to um, things you see as gaps in services or gaps that aren't being met in your community. So there's lots of opportunities for that. One thing, final comment is I had a donor once tell me that giving to a rural community foundation felt more impactful to them, to him, because sometimes, like you said, Laura, you don't have to give a lot. You can give a little, you can give very specifically, and it can have a big impact because it's a small community. We have 26,000 people here, and you everyone can have an impact on helping their community. So it's been a wonderful opportunity for me to share with you today, Laura. I really appreciate you welcoming me to your podcast.
I was so excited to be your first podcast, to be, to be a guest on my podcast for your first time. So
Yeah,
now you'll be a seasoned professional and you can go on and share with everyone. But
wonderful.
again, like Tammy said, this is the season of giving, Thanksgiving and the holidays. I mean, obviously year round, but I know people think about it more now. And maybe, just in this Thanksgiving season, you will be able to find something that you can help with. And maybe we've inspired you today to do something and have that ripple effect, to have a change in somebody's, potentially change someone's life. A funny thing happened on the way to their life because of you. So again, thank you, Tammy. I really appreciate it. And thanks to our listeners.
Thank you for listening to A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to My Life podcast. For more information, visit my website at www.lauramuirhead.com.